Hey guys, it's Ashley Tucker back today with another video. So this video is going to be featuring the Hero Arts My Monthly Hero Kit for March 2018. And this is the first time I've ever purchased a kit from Hero Arts, and I really love this kit. So for this kit, you get that bag of sparkly sequins, you get the unicorn white ink cube there, and a little jar of embossing powder in silver sparkle. And then you get 4 sheets of craft cardstock, 4 sheets of white cardstock, 4 sheets of black cardstock, and those are all 80-pound cardstocks in card size that you could fold down and make a card. And then you get that big stamp set along with dies on the back. Now, I've been looking at the Hero Arts kit for a while now, trying to decide if I wanted to buy it or not. And this month's one just convinced me, because look at how many different sentiments are in that stamp set. And there are dies, and they're really good dies. The dies are connected, so you will have to cut them apart. I just use a flush cutter wire snips to do that. And look at all those dies. There's a hello die in there, a hugs, a thank, and a you. And I love the font that they used for these. I'm just really excited about it. I started my first card out by doing some ink blending with a couple of my distress inks. And I know I've mentioned it before, but just in case you didn't know, my distress inks are really dry, so it took me quite a while to get the blending to look just right. I did the blending in kind of a circular shape there because I wanted to die cut it out with a circle die. I used my Big Shot and a Sizzix circle die, and I cut out that blended area. I just want to say I'm super excited right now because as I sat down to do this narration, I just got a delivery and it's for my new computer chair, and I'm so excited. I haven't had a computer chair for my desk in a long time. I've been using one of the chairs from our dining room table, and it's not super comfortable for sitting at the computer and doing work. So I'm really excited about this chair, but I've got to put it together first, and I hope it's not super complicated. Anywho, the next thing I decided to do was cut out another circle in vellum. This is a slightly smaller circle than the blended circle. I plan on putting this die sentiment over the circle, but I wanted to kind of make it stand out a little more. So I thought if I did a vellum circle, that would help to make the sentiment pop more. I used some black paper and cut out these sentiments from the kit. These are the ones that say thank and you, because this is going to be a thank you card. I don't know if you saw, but the U kind of stuck in the die, and that can happen with these really detailed dies. So I just used my little poker tool. It has a really pointy end on it, and I just poked through the hole on the die to pop out the U. I'm going to glue these dies to the vellum, and I don't want to use like a whole ton of glue because I don't want it to like seep out and then you see the glue on the vellum. So I put really tiny dots all along the back side of the sentiments. I would have preferred to use like the Ranger Multi-Medium Matte glue to glue the sentiment because it dries matte and I wouldn't have that much of an issue with it. If it was like seeping out, it would dry matte and you wouldn't notice it very much. But I don't have any of that glue right now, so I had to use this glue. It's hard to tell looking at it right now, but I put little dots of glue on the back of the vellum all along where the sentiment is on the front to hide the glue so that you wouldn't see it through the vellum. Next, I decided to take out this embossing folder that I have, which is kind of a tree pattern, and I'm going to take just a sheet of white paper and emboss that. I thought that the background behind this sentiment that I made needed a little bit of something, but I didn't want it to be too much, so I thought an embossing would be perfect for it. I used some foam tape to pop this up on my card base, and I did leave a little border around so you could see the card base a little bit. And I really love how that turned out. It's really subtle, but the embossing really added a lot to this card. I popped up the sentiment circle with some foam tape as well. I like to add dimension wherever I can. I feel like it adds a lot of interest to a card. To finish up this card, I pulled out my sequins. I don't know if you can see it in the video, but there was a little mark on the side there of my blending, and it happened because there was a sequin in my Big Shot when I cut the circle out, and it left an impression in the paper. So I decided to use a sequin to cover it up. It's a good little trick to have for if you have very small mistakes on things that you really just don't want to restart. Just cover it up with an embellishment. I glued these down with my Tombow glue, and I used my little pick-up stick there to help me place them. That is a really good tool. I recommend it. One side is really sticky, and it has like this kind of ticky-tacky stuff that you can like push out. And then the other side is like a 2-in-1 tool with like a pointy end and then like a flat end where you pull it out and flip it to get both ends. Hopefully you understand what I mean when I say that. So I used Wink of Stella on the sentiment, and then that card is done. Moving on to the next card. Here it is, guys. My Misty tool. Now my husband let me use it so that I could make cards with it, but for my birthday, he says he's taking it back and wrapping it up, so I have to open it. Let me tell you guys, this tool is amazing, and I'm so glad that I had it for this card, because lining up all those sentiments without the Misty would have been much more difficult. And the first time that I stamped them, it was really light. Like, I used a black ink, but it came out really light. I think my black ink is starting to dry up and I need a new one. But I was able to just stamp it again and make it much more black and crisp. So the really great thing about the stamp set that came with this kit is that you can choose to combine the sentiments in so many different ways to say so many different things. And the way that I chose to lay them out, I had it say, "Hello there, make a wish, it's your birthday." I used this rounded corner rectangle die to cut out the sentiment. Next, I took this purple piece of paper and glued it to my card base using my ATG gun. Now, when I looked at this, I thought that that background needed a little something else. So I pulled out that stamp set again, and I found this little stamp that has confetti on it. I pulled out my powder tool to prep the background here because I decided to repeatedly stamp this confetti image across the whole background in Versamark ink, and then I'm going to heat emboss it. I wasn't super careful when stamping this. There wasn't really a pattern I was going for or like any kind of organization to it. I just stamped a ton of confetti. And I knew that that sentiment was going to go in the middle, so I was mostly concerned with getting the edges to look right and not necessarily the middle. The embossing powder that I chose to use for this is a clear embossing powder, and what that does is it just kind of darkens the area and makes it shiny and raised up, and I really like that effect on this background. At this point, I noticed that there were some blank little areas along the edge that I wanted to fill in, so I came back in with my stamp and just filled in those little areas. At this point, I was really happy with the background, so I pulled out my foam tape and I popped up that little rectangle in the middle of the card. I pulled out one of my purple markers and I put some dashed lines all around the edge of that rectangle. And of course, I had to add some sparkle to this card, so I pulled out my Wink of Stella brush again and went along that "hello there" sentiment. I tell you what, it is very rare for me not to use my Wink of Stella on a card. But that was not enough sparkle for me, so here comes the sequins. I decided to use a light purple sequin, a dark purple sequin, and a big silver sequin. But of course it takes me about 8 years to figure out which sequins I'm going to use and where I'm going to put them, so I sped this up pretty fast. And then I glued down those sequins with my Tombow glue. And then this card is done. So I only made 2 cards today with this kit, and I didn't use very many of the materials that are in the kit, so I can tell already that I'm going to get a ton of use out of this. And I would really recommend it, especially if you don't have a lot of sentiments yet. This is a great kit for sentiments. Thank you for watching today. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button so that you can see all of my future videos. And I'm going to try to be back with a new video on Friday.